Call this meeting to order, 11:31, Tuesday, November 28th. We are here to have hear concerns and discuss nuisance and encroachment complaints filed back in 19 and in 21. Mrs. Minde Beehner. So I'll give you the floor.
Okay. First, I'm sorry Stephanie isn't here because I did want to, I think it was July, possibly June when I was here last time, and I did want to apologize to her, so please pass that along to her, that I had made an accusation that she had not forwarded my concerns onto the commissioner and commissioners. And since then, I did find in the public records request where she did actually bump it out to you guys. But I do want to clarify, especially with Mr. Dose, that the rest of my statements and accusations, I have proof behind in that, and anything I state today, I will have a document that would back it up. So I don't want to be accusing people of stuff. But again, please let Stephanie know that I did find that. So I'm just basically here. It's been 5 weeks since we had a meeting to describe the survey information and get people's concerns. I personally feel that based off of public records requests and kind of what took place during the meeting, that the meeting was basically just directed to deal with the garage that sits on F Street and the alley that is I believe they're Patrick's now, Tapman's old property. So I'm kind of was curious. I made a public statement a couple weeks ago on like, where are we with things? What are we doing? Are we only focusing on just the F Street? There was, I believe, 2 or 3 pages of encroachment issues. I don't think they're encroachments. I think based on Ordinance 160, the prosecuting attorney's office just wanted to let the then commissioners take care of the issue and passed them down as nuisances or as encroachments, not as nuisances, but different interpretations, because state code has public nuisances defined as anything which is injurious to health or is indecent or offensive to the senses or obstructs to the free use of property so as to interfere with the comfortable enjoyment of life or property by an entire community or neighborhood or by a considerable number of persons, or unlawfully obstructs the free passage or use in the customary manner of any navigable lake, river, stream, canal, basin, public park, square, street, highway is a public nuisance.
And what code was that?
That's Idaho Code 185901. And a portion of it was used when the last prosecuting attorney redid our nuisance ordinance and did the new one, ordinance number 160. They went ahead and used, you can see where I marked it. Oh, definition of nuisance was any act, status, condition, substance, or activity which is injurious to public health or safety or is indecent or offensive to the senses or obstructs the free use of properties so as to interfere with comfortable enjoyment or life or property by an individual, by an entire community or neighborhood, or by a considerable number of persons, or those acts or conditions designated to be by an ordinance of the county of Shoshone or state law.
Sorry. To give you a heads up on that, I was there for this, and I asked Miss Oxidine afterwards, you can't go below state law. State law has roads in there. And she left it that way, ambiguous, I guess. And I don't, for a reason, but that's my opinion.
So whether they want to, I guess apparently the difference is you prosecute a nuisance and an encroachment comes. I believe that they used encroachment because it's the, I don't have that code with me, but it does reference, and it's a favorite word that's been referenced in the courthouse as open highway versus just a public right-of-way or different highway words that are used in the code. And the big argument has been on whether or not it, again, I'm not trying to just focus on F Street, but this does pertain to that, which was my first question. There's been an argument of whether or not F Street was ever an open highway, and findings of facts have been done with statements from Public Works that no money has ever been spent on it, but these are by people that have been like at the time, Jim Kaysen, he made the statement, he worked for the county for 4 years. And I'm not 100% sure, but I've been told in the past that the records for expenses really only go back about 10 years. And so,
So using the term never has is pretty loosely.
yeah, and it's like, and I mean, we have presented photographs of, this is just after the house was built. The trailer that they used to plow F Street for before the garage was built on it, is still there in this photograph. We have presented pictures. Sorry, got a lot of documents. We have presented pictures of year. When did you?
75, I think. It's
75. When this photograph was taken because Matt got tied up in a thing of barbed wire. This up here, and I'll pass it over to you. This trailer up here is actually on our property. I don't know if any of you have been up Tomshe Road, but it used to, like, you could just drive up Tomshe and then just drive into our property and that, because the land like declined greatly back towards Tomshe. We built up the retaining wall. So it was like you could drive up Tomshe and go straight onto our property. So this trailer house is on our property. This one that's parked under this shambly thing is the trailer that was there in 75 at the intersection where the road goes across, and they plowed the snow that direction towards the creek for this trailer. That trailer was replaced.
Why don't you come up to the table so we can pass pictures around
Okay.
the street?
This is, just a closer up picture of it. That trailer.
I think she's already been part of all these pictures.
I don't want her to miss any
Yeah, she
action.
can read it. But that trailer that's underneath the shambly thing,
Whose property is that?
That's where
that's
the garage is
where the
sitting now.
garage is sitting now.
So this is before the house?
Yeah.
Yes, that's like
Yep.
in 75. And then, so anyway, that trailer that was under the like rough looking shambly thing,
Shambly
Was
things.
on our side of F Street,
was on
That's Tomshe Road that goes right.
where the skid marks are.
where the skid marks are.
That's Tom.
It's
He's
Tomshe.
looking up towards our place.
You're driving up.
Yeah.
Now there's a power pole just past where you can turn left on that gravel, and you can see a little bit. No, excuse me. This is my right.
F Street is the one that's running past that trailer?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's what it is, F Street.
Yeah, and that trailer, shortly after that was replaced with this trailer. There were people living there before Glen Cross built the house and plopped the garage, which again, as I stated at the meeting 5 weeks ago, he put his garage where you came up Tomshe, and his driveway was already established because it was a road. So he put the garage on the established road so he could drive into the garage. So anyway, like I said, it's, I have proof of things. Nobody seems to want to look at it. There was Mr. Ludwig on our shop side of F Street. The county used to plow it. He told me years ago that twice the grader, because the power lines used to be overhead, twice the grader had caught the power line going from the pole that's not there now because we made this to put it underground to his house and pulled his power out of his trailer. So he just got done and told him, like, just stop plowing over here. I'll deal with this side. Well, at that time, the guy that lived in this trailer, which is where our shop is, this is what our shop lot used to look like. He just came up Tomshe Avenue and pulled off to the side, so it didn't matter if that F Street didn't get plowed. But, that was a property owner that directed the county at that time, probably John Thilman, to stop plowing that side. At this point, when this was taken, they weren't plowing the other side of F Street either because the garage had been placed on it. So everything just kind of, like I said, you used to drive up Tomshe, but once we started putting in the retaining, and it started becoming a dead end, again, things changed up there. It got a little bit more ambiguous. People stopped doing stuff, and roads became driveways or grassed over or parking spots for people that were down there. But my point is I have records. I can show where things were in that, but findings of facts make statements like no money was ever spent to plow this road. And it's like, that's not correct. I mean, we submitted for the, and this is the last thing I'll say on the F Street because I want to get on to the other encroachments. We submitted probably over, I'd say 110 years of people that had lived up there, their combined lives on that property that explained where things went, what alleys went where, how Hecla accessed their property through an alley, how the power lines came in. None of that seems to matter. And so that's why I was hoping when I sent my letter to Ben and my concern over that meeting, I sent some of the findings of facts so that you guys would have your direct hands on them. I mean, I'm hoping you were able to access and go back to the actual evidence that was turned in for the petition the Tapmans did that was denied to vacate it, because like I said, there was a definite lean on the findings of what is a fact and what is not a fact. So I think someone that works for the county for 3 years and says there's been no money ever spent on plowing this is a mistruth. I don't think that it's, in his time, maybe no money had been spent in that. And if he looked back in the records for 10 years, and maybe he did, no money had been spent on that. But actually at that time, the county, Ludwig had been required to remove all of his stuff off of F Street. I've got a picture in here somewhere of that for you. Without a survey, without a big meeting, there was an executive session. Keisha presented things to the commissioners. They came out, made a decision, and within a month, he had to remove a basketball pole, tree, lattice, plantings, cinder blocks, cherry tones, two sheds. All had to be removed off. And there's a lovely area now that the county can come around and plow, and they push the snow towards Burke Road. But all of that took place without any survey or any concern of, what stuff was. And I mean, I understand things are a little ambiguous up there in that. But at some point, some of these things, like I said, 2016 is as far back as I started to document. There was a year or something before that. I mean, somebody's got to, poo or get off the pot.
I had a question.
Yeah.
Do you have the letter that was sent to Mr. Ludwig from the county that
Yes.
states that he's supposed to remove the?
I have the original letter that was sent in 2017 by Frosty Greenfield. I tried to get the other letter after the executive session that Keisha had, and the emails that I have, she directed Jim Kaysen. So I asked Public Works and Keisha for a letter. It came back from Keisha that there was no letter. Jim just talked to Mr. Ludwig and that. So the original encroachment.
But I believe the minutes of the meeting says it.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've read it.
Yeah, I mean, that was September, beginning of October of 2020. So I don't physically have a thing from 2020 that says that. I just have the encroachment notification from Frosty.
It was 2017.
2017, like July. Honestly, I think you guys also have that in an email. October of 2020.
2020.
Pouring rain, everything else. I mean, I felt bad at that point because honestly, when we had first started filing the encroachments, it was just, I wanted the tree that they had planted right, this close to the edge of our pavement. I wanted the tree removed because it's a pine tree. It's going to grow. It's going to get bigger. I'm required by law to keep that barrier that the state placed intact so that, I can sell my property or do whatever without breaking panhandle health rules and, having God strike me down or something. But, so, I mean, my request was like, just get that off. I didn't even care so much about the power pole or anything else. And like I said, as this process has gone on and as emails back and forth get discovered from people in that, at that point by 2020, I was like, I don't care what they make them take down. That's up to them to make a decision. I've made a complaint. And so probably everything except for two items, well, three items. The cement pad was still there, which, you know, is fine until the county catches it with its blade and ruins the front end of a truck. So, but, yeah, and I mean, we even, after they tore the shed down, our curbing is here. They tore the shed down. You know, again, one of these ones where Panhandle Health is like, oh yeah, that's good enough, even though it's exposed dirt. So we went and got gravel because we don't want our curbing to fall in that. We put the gravel in.
Not all of it, not all of it. They came up and did some. I thumped it all in.
Oh, okay. You thumped, the county put some in?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You know, like we repaired along the edge where because according to our survey, the shed that they took off, I mean, we only did our curbing right behind his shed, you know, because there was no intention of having them do anything, even though when they ran, you know, like the line for our line, you know, his shed was over the line by 6 inches or something like that. So it was like, okay, whatever, we're running our curbing along there. Well, now that the shed's gone, you know, we fixed the base so that the curbing would and the asphalt would stay contained in that. So anyway, that's it for F Street. I'm, like I said, I want to know, you know, it's been 5 weeks. Has there been a response from the other party that was concerned about F Street? Is there any focus on anything other than F Street?
Trying to think of a fair assessment. There have been some discussions in the county on what we should do next. We have pursued what to me struck me as one of the biggest obstacles was F Street. As far as my line of thinking goes, nobody's approached any party though. I mean, we haven't talked to the
Patrick's, I believe,
we
is the
haven't
name
talked
now.
to the Patricks or anything yet about any of this. Have had some thinking on it. I can't think of anything else. We haven't reached out to anybody yet, right?
No.
We haven't spoken to anybody short of you guys.
I mean, the only people that keep coming back. Well, and again, like I said, it's, you know, I mean, obviously I'm the squeaky wheel, but
That's okay.
I'm also the one that, you know, has, I mean, if we'd have known it was Wild West up Canyon Avenue or Canyon Creek, you know, we wouldn't have surveyed our shop lot. I'd have just moved my shop lot over a little further and used Tomshi Avenue as the access into my shop. But I went, we paid for the survey, we did the offsets. I mean, when we were building, Matt even asked the building inspector when he came up, do you want me to show you where the offsets are in that? And he's like, no, that's the county's problem. I'm only on building codes. So I'm like, you know, we have offsets in that nobody has to follow because nobody in the county's coming out and checking it. But, you know, we went through the steps and set it and, you know, have less use of our property than we would have if we'd have moved our shop over 40 more feet. So, you know, like I said, our main property, we've surveyed and done the stuff in that. And like I said, you know, I'm hoping at some point that, you know, you guys direct, because I know that through public records requests that Public Works is concerned with me speaking with Mr. Stratton. But to be fair about that, when he sent out the letters about the project, way too much stuff. His letter to me and to Brookside Avenue was, you know, if you have any questions about this process or this project, please call me or email me at here. That is why I first started reaching out to Mr. Stratton. Never did I ask him to or direct him to do any work. I just asked, how are things going? Do you need to, you know, like I can show you where our survey are to save time kind of thing. I've been that way with every surveyor that's come along. I have tried to reach out to the county. Public Works was not involved at the time. Public Works got pushed to the side when I went and did what I thought was proper by meeting with Ben and saying, hey, this is going on. This is what the minutes and some of these emails are showing, that the previous commissioners are only worried about Brookside Avenue. That's not what Stratton was supposed to do. He's supposed to finish all this stuff to take care of encroachments in this area, not try to figure out a way that can, you know, vacate a road because you're going to choose to tell us we can't ever do anything on our property when, you know, you guys aren't in that decision-making process. Ben, is this going to be included? And so he reached out to Fitzgerald and said, make sure these concerns are included. You know, Stratton got the information. I mean, you can speak to Mr. Stratton. He thought he was chasing a goal line that was going like this because he kept getting a bunch of different directions. After I had that meeting in like July of last year, I kind of noticed, because I'd asked for a public records request, I'm like, well, I don't think Public Works knows what's going on. And I reached out, and Stephanie and Jessica were like, yeah, we haven't heard anything. I replied to Ben and said, would you please make sure that my concerns and the information from our meeting that you sent to the commissioners, at that time, not these commissioners, gets passed on to Public Works, because if Jim was supposed to be in charge of watching stuff, I'm assuming Jessica's going to be in charge of watching stuff, and they don't know that anything's going on. So I think I've been above and beyond on inclusiveness and transparency. I do not feel the last 6 years through Miss Featherstone being concerned that I'm talking to Stratton, that's on the other side. I thought we were all on the same team trying to take care of an issue. And it's like, I would just like to be upfront and open about it. I don't think that these are things that should be like such a big issue. The focus, like I said, the focus was on F Street. If we can't come into agreement with Stratton's survey, sorry, this circles back to where I hope you guys have Stratton come out and at least ask us to show him where the power poles were that he can try to tie. I mean, he seemed to have been happy with Banks's survey of our property, which included the railroad. The railroad was there when Banks did it. I'm not sure where he was instructed by another property owner on, you know, like where the railroad grade is. It's fairly easy that, I mean, most of it's been covered with maybe just a foot of stuff. You can dig down and find the ballast. You can find the edge of where the railroad was, you know, taken out in 95, 96. The tracks were gone, but the bed was there until a cleanup group came through in like 95 and removed the bed. But like I said, they didn't take it down to, you know, water, because they would have had the little creek between Burke and us, or Burke Road and us, running on us. But, you know, you can dig down, you can find ballast. There are historic things out there. Like I said, I mean, Matt's been on the property all of his life. He happened to be out weed eating, because we try to keep the knapweed and stuff from blowing into our yard. So he weed eats off the edge of our property, and he happened to get over a little further than he normally does. And it's like, well, here's the power poles that ran up the alley. And it's like, oh, look, you stand here and you can see they line right up with HMH's stakes that they put over by the new East Street that were the alley. And it's like, you know, there are things in our deed that tie directly to that alley and to that power line, that if he's happy with Banks's information, maybe that tying in can take care of, you know, whatever little line on the survey map that, you know, like our property's here and then our shop property's up here. But instead, you know, he's trying to make adjustments that, you know, and sending out an email after the meeting last month that's like, you know, I can't find any way that removes the garage completely from the right of way. It's like, I didn't know we were spending money on trying to figure out how to remove the garage completely from the right of way.
Yeah,
And-
let me make this statement. That really surprised me, that he was trying to move the survey around to situate that garage off the county's right of way, which you got the email.
Yeah.
Who was?
Stratton was. I don't know if he was directed by somebody or what, but
I'm not even aware of that.
I wasn't either until we got the emails.
Yeah, I believe the email, again, I don't have these noted yet, but I believe the email would have been just shortly after the meeting in October, and I believe it was addressed to Stephanie and you, Mr. Dose. So, but I understand you get a lot of emails.
But
Because, yeah, he sent another map showing,
Where's the
you know,
map?
well, it's in this last chunk of stuff. So like I said, I just, you know, I'm fairly an open book. I'm fairly an emotional open book. I just want this taken care of. There's items on there. Avista. Avista made a claim to Keisha that they had adversely possessed the area. Well, first of all, the utility can't adversely possess a county thing.
Because one of the biggest deals is you gotta prove you pay taxes on the land, and I'll pass this out to you.
Government land, you can't
Nope,
first possess in state.
Let me find
there's,
my, oh,
there's
my
code
Avista.
for it. And, because one of the words, I didn't know what it meant, maybe I'm dumb, but there's the, meaning of it.
Incommode.
Incommode.
So yeah, when Keisha started reaching out in June of 2020, what the heck's that guy's name? Dave Padden. He reached out and gave her all of these like prescriptive rights and Vista franchise rights. And I mean, some of this stuff they have like franchise rights, but it refers to within the city, through the city, and granted by a Vista. This is a right of way that's not located in the city of Wallace. So he's referencing in his email, he has an agreement with the city of Wallace. Yes, they can put poles on the right of ways and they can do certain things to provide it to your city. But I think he got messed up when Keisha wanted to know what easements do you guys have in this area of Canyon subdivision to Wallace. He just saw Wallace and went with Wallace. So, you can't.
I put an arrow on how he tried to change the survey around to get the garage off the
Is
street.
this the?
Who did this?
Stratton evidently did it under somebody's orders.
Where did you pull it from?
Right here. It was,
Here knows about any discussion.
It says-
I
Okay.
certainly never talked to him about moving.
And it just says it was sent on October 26th to Dave Dose and Stephanie that after listening to the discussion the other night, I figured it may be useful. So you're jumping.
all right.
So he started working some other stuff. And like I said, if we're concerned that he answers an email to me on a question that Miss Featherstone's very worried that I'm spending county money on, then to the point where she had to send this to legal to get information, like, are we supposed to be doing this? And then passed on to Dave. Well, then we should definitely not be, like, you guys aren't directing him, but he shouldn't leave a meeting and start trying to tweak stuff that ends in, I don't see any scenario that can get the garage in F Street entirely out of the right of way. And so it's like, I mean, I just don't.
So you're assuming that somebody asked him to do it?
What, I don't see why he would
I'm
do it.
assuming someone asked him to, or I'm assuming he did it on his own. I'm not saying.
Well, let me state that from everything I could hear from him, he did that on his own
That's what it
because of what
appears
he
to
heard
me.
at the meeting.
I will agree.
Yeah, that's what he
But-
stated.
But it's like, okay, well, I've asked legitimate questions on like where are we in the process, and I then am basically accused of like directing him to do things, and it's like I have never directed. I have just asked like, when are you going to be on the ground? Where are we? We were at the meeting in February, and you said something about a plat map. I thought he didn't have the plat map, so I let him know I have it if you don't have it, but he did, So anyway, I just,
Patridge's the one with the house in the garage.
Yes.
Yeah.
On that, okay.
so I just, like I said, am like, well, I don't know why he would come to a conclusion that to try to find a scenario that didn't have the garage. I'm not saying anybody directed him to do that or anything else, but I am saying it's like, well, it's kind of weird from that meeting that he just jumps that, I don't see any way to not have the garage in the right of way, but
He got some intent from some place to do it.
and if he didn't, then it's like, okay, well,
Thank you.
hopefully we're not built on that one. So anyway, that's, I think those were for the commissioners.
State again for the record that he did not receive any direction from anybody at the county to do what he did after that meeting.
And I hear that, so, and like I
On
said.
on the commissioner's side, you're saying.
Or Public
Your
Works.
Public Works, I can
Okay.
confirm
Because we were
on
both
behalf of our
surprised
clerk
when we
that
got
not
the same,
located.
when we got that email, we were like,
But we don't know everybody in the courthouse.
Well,
And maybe it was outside the courthouse?
No,
Other property owners?
yes, could have been another property owner
I
in
wouldn't
that,
think,
but
I wouldn't think you'd take direction from a property owner, but that's me.
anyway, like I said, that's going back to F Street again, but it's, like I said, there are definite things that I brought the Avista one up because, and it's not just Avista, there's a telephone hub there and there is a internet hub there. Now again, the internet and the telephone put their hubs there because there was a power pole there. But you know, there's some things that, I mean, that power pole, whether F Street's moved this
But-
way or F Street's moved that way or wherever they're, you know, like
But-
whatever the intersection in Tomshe gets moved around, it's in the intersection, it's on county property, and nobody seems to have the desire to tell the utilities like, hey, you know, you need to get that off of there.
What is the goal, since, yeah, I'm just coming into this too, and I'm trying to understand the whole thing. What is it that you guys want exactly?
Encroachment's off.
Yeah, like
You
I
want
said,
the encroachments removed from around your properties?
well,
or from
from that area, I mean, that's when they went through the whole thing of redoing an ordinance so they could prosecute nuisances that then just became the encroachments. It was like, yes, I filed based on the new ordinance, how you were supposed to file for these encroachments / nuisances. And I've been running since October of 19, just specifically on those, on trying to, you know, get them taken care of and stuff. And, you know, there was no protocol of what do we do once we get in a complaint. I went out and did the pictures for Keisha. Keisha and Ben went out and did some pictures. You know, little things were done here, little things were done there, but it was mostly driven by that area is being used more by us because we bought the lots and then we built the shop there and stuff, and it connects to our property. And the driving factor was that I was coming home one day, and because where the power pole is, you don't drive down the lane you're supposed to. You go around the power pole. Well, in getting lazy, I'm around the power pole. Everybody just kind of stays there and drives. I turned to go into the back corner of our property, and I almost ran a child over that came, because we have a lot of blacktop. Kid comes across our bridge, and there are 2 or 3 of them on a bike. It's a great, you know, I mean, it looks like a skate park because they can go zippity and around. Well, they had to have come, because we didn't have the cameras, I don't think at that time, over from the bridge down along the side of our house, which connects to the shop lot, and around the back of the shop to come out on Tomshe. Well, I'm coming this way. My shop is here. I'm coming up Tomshe to turn, and it's a tight corner because we only did the minimum offset we needed to. I'm coming here, and 3 kids on bikes, one leading, comes this way. I almost had to run into my retaining wall not to run a child over. So that's where I started getting, for lack of a better word, pissy over it. It was like, enough is enough. Yeah. This intersection, you know, this area is getting used more. So when all of the things were filed, I filed on mine. We have, on our shop lot, we have pillars along the side that sit about 1.5 feet onto Tomshe Avenue. I filed, you know, complaints against mine. I filed and complaints against anybody that was on there that, as I'm coming up, that affects the ability for the county to keep my road open to access my property, or affects things that make me swerve around stuff, that narrows things that I can't see people and can run somebody over. That's what was driving me in the beginning.
To give you more information, is that with the telephone pole there, the county actually plows into the telephone pole. They make a big pile there, so it narrows up the road even more. Then they were scared to hit the telephone pole, so they'd leave 4 feet off the telephone pole. So now you've got 14 foot of the road cut off. Then Ludwig's garage shoveled their snow off his roof onto the county road. Well, the county don't want to push it through his garage, so they let it build up there. So pretty soon you got a 10-foot road, 15-foot road to go around.
And this is what's this road?
This is Tomshe, yeah.
Tomshe.
Yes.
So I was very surprised today to hear that the county is doing 10-day encroachments to get a room for people so they can plow snow, but this has gone on since 16,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing seems to happen. And after reading, I got to put this out there, because after reading these emails, F Street was the only thing that you guys were interested in, or I won't say you guys were interested. The only thing you got information was on F Street through the emails. There was nothing about the other encroachments. Somebody has in my opinion, there's an agenda in this courthouse for some reason on this. Don't know why, because why wouldn't you guys been provided all the encroachment stuff? So you dealt with it. That was the only thing that was going to happen at that meeting, and after reading the emails, it really, really irritated me.
So how many encroachments do you, how many encroachments?
Mindy,
Number-wise do you have?
why Mindy's looking at that. Also know that Ludwig's had to pull down their stuff without a survey. The county also opened up E Street without a survey being done. It was done after the fact.
Opened portion.
Part of it.
Portion of these.
Part of it. It's still not opened all the way.
Well, I believe in my long email to Ben prior to the meeting in October, I think I attached to that the encroachments and stuff, but like at one time I went through and I counted things and that, but there's probably over 50. And, like I said, some of them are minute, dumb little things. But again, I listed my encroachments. It was like, no, I want a clear picture of what's going on. And it's not, is the bulk of it near the end where things dead end and there's an intersection and stuff. There's the bulk of it and that. But there were, the Tapmans, the property owners, they had most of Brookside Avenue, which is up near the creek, was fenced off. They had BLM's marker fenced off. It took BLM quite a while to get them to move their little fence off of BLM's and Hecla's property, but they still kept this part fenced in. Well, then when they were getting ready to sell, they did have to pull that in. So like I said, there have been little things here and there, but like pulling the fence in back on Tomshi is, again, not as much of a safety driven thing. One of the big ones that when in May of 22, when the commissioners did their little walkthrough, was they were surprised at when you come off of Burke Road and you're coming in, there's just before you turn to come up Tomshi Avenue, you're coming in on E. There is a water spigot that when this Weitz's property was remediated, Matt was involved in the backfill in it, and he told the state, you've got alleys and roads back here. And he said, yeah, we've talked to John at the county. They don't care. So they put the fence back in and fenced everything up and put her water spigot there. And then the county came along and stuck a pole in next to the water spigot with Tomshi Avenue on it. And they're sitting out on Tomshi Avenue. I honestly am impressed with, I guess, the pay attentionness of the plow trucks, because that's the one thing that I think it was Commissioner Hansen was
Huber.
like, was it Huber?
Yeah.
Was like, oh yeah, we need to get that moved. I can't surprised the plow truck hasn't taken the spigot or the sign out, because it's right at the curve and that, but it's it's sitting out on the road. So excuse me. So like I said, a lot of them, are down towards this end, but they're all over that area. It was for safety, and my list was like things that are clearly, even if Mr. Ludwig's garage were to be determined to be on his property, which, I obviously question.
If his is on his property, we're moving the shop out even with his, because that's where the road's at.
If his is on the property, say his is right on the corner, it does not meet, this is an uncontrolled intersection. It does not meet the line of sight criteria. And even if that all stayed, in the last picture, part of the thing, this was
75.
no, we were
Oh,
building the retaining
It's about 92.
92. Okay, so
if you look really close to, next to his garage and where his fence line is, there's just a little green patch. Well, part of what was listed is there are, look at my list, 5 large pine trees and 5 shrubs. Pine tree, shrub, pine tree, shrub, pine tree, shrub. Those don't just randomly appear from not being used. They were trees that were planted in that.
In
And
a
so
straight
now,
line.
even if his house is right on the line, you now have like a 30-year-old pine tree that sticks out. The grader has to go around because it's all in that same area and the branches are, clear out in the road. So even if you were going to take Stratton's word or Ludwig's word that his house was on there, why are there 30-year-old pine trees on a right of way? That definitely impede. You come up Tomshie Avenue, you go like this to get around the branches that are sticking out, you go around this to get around the power pole, and then you continue to our place. Unless, like, I have someone that I allow to park their, I don't know, the big camper van at our house, who usually comes up, swings around the trees, then tries to come in on the proper side of the road of F Street, taking a left to access our property and park. But half the time she comes around and it's like you've got people leaving their property that are driving in the oncoming traffic lane and curving around. One day, I mean, we have it on video that
I showed him the picture.
okay, the neighbor almost took Matt out in the Can-Am or the Ranger because he was driving where he's supposed to. She comes around the corner and drives into the oncoming traffic lane. Why? Because you can't see. I've got some, I don't have them with me, some lovely ones where, I mean, I wouldn't want to be the grader driver. They've backed down F Street, and you know how long a grader is. Well, tell me how much he can see as he's coming out and can barely turn so that he doesn't hit the people that are parked where their garage is on the road. Turn to go this way and somebody's coming this way. You're going to, there's a lot of stuff going on up at that end. And I understand that, again, unique history in that area because the guy that homesteaded everything, he owned everything. He did the subdivision. He sold the things north of Burke Road, which again, the focus on F Street, one of the papers that Stephanie had sent up was a vacate of F Street. Well, it was stuff that was on the north side that was sent, and it's like that has nothing. I mean, again, that one is in 79. Don't know what the public hearing rules were at that time or anything else. We weren't, well, you weren't made aware of it. I wasn't there yet. But it again states the road was never used or developed. Until the highway went through, it was the main road that went up on the hillside and came out on F Street to get back to the road before the highway came through in the 30s. So again, in 79, we're making a statement that, oh, this road was never developed or used. And it's like, it was the flipping road that went up Burke Road through that canyon area. So again, that's a misstatement. But that side of the road, yes, there's been things that are abandoned and that, the roads aren't used. At some point, maybe if there's somebody that's buying basically the bulk of the hill, so they may not care, but there's other lots in there, and somebody might at some point go like, well, wait a minute, I got a road through here. So things have changed on the other side. Tomshie owned everything. He sold everything to whites. So on our side that we're concerned, it was probably a little less of a deal. Like I said, the roads were there. There was different things that went off. But Wayne White bought it. He fenced up areas for a corral or whatever, but he also owned it here where the guy was still living in the trailer and the county plowed to him. But now it's, White sold to Glen Cross, who was a relative, and then Ludwig got some, and then, it's just going, and this is what I've been saying for a long time. Mrs. White, she has the whole flat area there. With the way housing is, I am sure when she passes that her family's in Coeur d'Alene and out of state, they're not worried about living there. But you got a prime piece of flat land that with housing around here, somebody may want to buy and want to build. And it's like, it's not just one owner anymore. And so, I'm sorry if somebody's upset that, well, I always used to drive here and it was my garage and I planted a tree or whatever. It's like, it wasn't yours, so. at some point it's like it can't be just oh well that's how it was done. You know, and I know 100%. I mean, the power pole and the utility thing is one that really gripes me, because Avista, when they were doing the cleanup, tried to bully us into, we used to have overhead power lines, came off of Burke to the pole that's still on our property, went down from us towards Ludwig through the shop lot overhead, went overhead from the pole just right at the corner of our property to the pole that's there now. Well, they had no easement. They had no way when we were doing this. So
their statement before saying they adverse possessed it, they didn't try to even pull that one on us.
yeah.
So if there was a case they could have adverse possessed, which we all know there's not, they would have tried to pull it on us. I think we got a line of or Keisha got a line of baloney, or
And it was just, easier to go with it because it sounded good. But anyway, we were having our property remediated. Avista was going to have to do some stuff, and the other utilities. None of them could show up with any easements. So they came to us with like, hey, we need to have easements now to do this over here. And we said, well, that's fine. But Matt talked to him, and it's like, you're going to put it all underground. Well, you know darn good and well, if Avista felt they had the right to have a pole where they had it and that, they're not going to pay to do it underground. Everything is underground from, we gave them, because the power comes to our house, we gave them the easement for the one pole that remained. But we didn't need that one for the power to the shop, so they had to go underground from there and underground over. We contacted Frosty and said, hey, they're going underground to the pole that's in the middle of your road. And, here we get, again, people not sitting in the same room, so you kind of get a couple different stories. And Avista said they talked to the county, and the county wasn't worried about it. They could plow around it just fine. And Avista told us, oh no, the county just said, yeah, we're so I mean.
But I got the other story there. Frosty was telling me that, yeah, it's a good time to get it moved.
Yeah. And so Avista's version was the county didn't care. Frosty's was like, hey, this is a great time. Let's get that out of the way, and get it moved. And
So
that was
15?
2014, 15.
14?
So, so like I said, it's, something's just got to be done. It's like at some point this, kicking the can from here to there and back and forth, and that is like,
So I guess I'm going to throw this out. There's a taxpayer. What do you say to the other taxpayers that have lived on their property for years and get behind on their taxes and can't afford it? It goes to auction. But the county's allowing just one person to use a quarter acre of county property for free for all these years. What do you say to the taxpayer that's paid his taxes all the years on the property he has, and he loses his property?
and not only that, when that was, I believe, like Chris Bischoff said it fairly well in the meeting, that when you came to look at this property that went up for sale, I mean, we had pointed out that there was at least 2 remodels done in there that never got any kind of adjustment. So we in that neighborhood have to foot the bill for a house that went from, 200 and some thousand to 475,000. I mean, I don't want my property to double. I haven't done 2 remodels in there. I haven't represented, I have property that expands beyond my line that we mow and stuff, but I haven't presented it for sale to anyone. You come and you look at this piece of property that is fenced in and stuff, and you assume you are, whether you read your title thing or whether you look at the stuff that you only own 0.9 acre, but boy, this really looks like it's bigger than 0.9 acre. It's a visual. And there's no way that visual did not benefit the sale price of that house. So a quarter of, like I said, their property, let's say, is with the stuff is 1 1/4. So 20% of their property is not theirs, but yet they're paying for the visual of it. And now my taxes or my assessment is going to say, oh, well, this property is worth 450 and it's an acre. Well, then now Beehner's are going to be worth that amount, and so it, and this is all things that the county was aware of. And like I said, I know that I sent the email that Keisha had sent out that ended up making the whole encroachment letter that went to the Tapmans of, okay, we know you have an encroachment. I mean, there's another one. You've got a letter that says, we know you have an encroachment, but now we're all debating on whether or not it's a street, you know, and it's like, so one year or one day it is an encroachment and you don't have to move it now, but you could in the future. But now we don't know if we're going to trust any of 3 surveys on if it's even a street or not. And so it's kind of like, you know,
There are 3 public hearings.
yeah, that's what I was going to say is I mean, the only reason that was dealt with in November was because of the letter that Brookside Development's attorney sent that said, for lack of a better word, crap or get off the pot. You know, what are you going to do? And we were advised by legal to take it to court and that, and we haven't wanted to. It's like, no, there's state statutes and there's ways to do this without costing us more money or without costing the county money. It's like, just somebody sit down and read through something and finally do something.
Okay,
That's where my concerns are.
well put.
I agree, it's time that something get done just to get this off the table. And get everyone settled and satisfied.
Can we correct? It's time that something like legal and that follows code gets done versus just something that, you know, the encroachment letter, I think, was something getting done.
Appropriate and
Thank you.
legal.
Because, like I said, I don't know the answers. I don't know that you'll ever have a survey that agrees on everything. I do know there's some additional information out there that, I mean, again, I'm not a surveyor, but it seems to make sense to me that if you can kind of tie it into where historically where the railroad was to some stuff that's out there, and or, I mean, I'll volunteer Matt. He'll go dig some potholes to find.
No.
He's got a nice little mini hoe. He can
Don't
find.
bend that you're fully trained.
Yeah, not yet. So, but you know, as long as Panhandle Health is okay with it, like I said, you can establish and then find an edge of something. And again, my surveys I've paid for, my surveys I've recorded, my surveys I've let everybody do or see. The other property owner that said he'd done 3 or whatever in that, where are the surveys? They're not recorded. There's no information. So again, I can tell you that, you know, a surveyor came along and told me that Tomshie Avenue is 50 feet wide and it's the F Street is now going to be 60 feet wide. But, you know, a surveyor told me it, so let's do it.
Okay. I think the point's well taken. I think the commission's tried to start the ball rolling with that meeting. Rather than seeing it as an agenda, hopefully you see it as the beginning of trying to educate all of us in the process. We're not through working on the answers, but we haven't gotten anything.
I didn't say it was your agenda. I say it's other people in this courthouse's agenda. I'm not pointing fingers at you 3. I just read the emails. And
It was partly my idea to start with what I saw as the biggest problem and work down. So it could be that what you're seeing was me thinking he was getting the ball rolling by starting with one of the bigger problems.
yeah, it would have
And
been.
that's a legit, you know, like conclusion that it's not just the garage, it's just kind of that area. And like I said, there are other things in that area of F Street, the pole, the trees next to the garage that, you know, that all are clearly not like a survey issue.
Let me say this to you, Dave. Going back to the last prosecuting attorney and dealing with the power pole, which we all know that you can't adverse possess county property, and believe in that. Follow that chain along, thinking along as you read these emails. And I see an agenda, but that's me.
No, those are-
Well, I'm just trying to comfort you a little bit.
Well,
I don't
like
think
I said,
everybody here has one.
I appreciate that, and you know, I'm just hoping that it can, you know, start moving forward and not be just.
Let's just say, I think we're gonna try and continue moving forward. I think we felt like we started with a public meeting where we could, in all fairness, hear
Mhm.
anybody who wanted to present. And that's the beginning
Okay.
of the process. So we had to get up to speed.
Yeah,
And it is a little bit complicated. You've got many years of history.
I guess let's throw this out. You know, we had the public meeting in that, and you got to hear everything. But the decision has already been made
What decision?
that it was a county street, and they weren't going to vacate it. That's already been made, that decision. Now, what do you go from there? Is up to you, except for I was told what has changed in the last 2 years to change the idea that it's not a county street. And I don't think you guys can come up with that answer.
Yeah, I think that's
we've tried.
Did I miss a meeting
That what? No, this is the public
Oh,
hearings that were held with
Oh,
the
prior.
past
Okay.
commissioners,
I thought, okay.
which I believe Ben sent you guys out. That, like I said, that's
Yeah.
what had me questioning agendas.
Well,
Okay.
I hear your perspective. You've been battling it a long time. I hopefully you'll see that we are making an attempt to do the right thing by everybody, and that meeting was the beginning of the process for us.
So I guess, like power pole, that's going to sit there another winter.
I don't know. We've talked with each other and the prosecutor about what we could do about that as a step. So, you know, we're not doing nothing. We're just not moving, unfortunately, the balance of so many issues in this courthouse. But we have put more time into that issue than any other citizen complaint, honestly, in the last bit, because it affects so many people. So we are working, and the power pole has come up. And I wished I could promise you stuff, but I know better. But I promise you, we haven't forgotten that power pole.
No, that's not fine. Like I said, I just keep bringing me up to the top.
And that's okay too. And I can see why you have, because it's like the ball's been dropped. And from your perspective, I get that. So, Jeff, anything you want to say?
Nope.
Anything else you want to say?
No,
Okay. Anything from Public Works?
just some studying and
No, I just did want to address something that Matt had brought up. Matt said it on the earlier meeting when we talked about our 10-day encroachments. And I just kind of wanted to specify that, we weren't purposely leaving out certain encroachments. Really, it was more what we were focusing on were the movable encroachments, such as cars, broken down cars, trailers, things like that, new sandwich board signs that have been put up on the sides of the road. And that's something we standard do going into every winter. And so I didn't want that to come across, or maybe I didn't clarify in the other meeting that, at this point we weren't looking, for all encroachments. It was more the movable ones that had popped up in there that would prohibit the plowing. And so, I just wanted to clarify that. But thank you for bringing that up.
And thanks for the documentation.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know sometimes you guys, check for, like one time you're gonna have Dan do the list of stuff, and I emailed like, hey guys, here's the list. Why waste Dan's time? So if you're looking for something, go ahead and reach out, because I've got a fairly extensive file of stuff. I may be able to find it for you quicker than making Sydney dig through years of minutes or something. So more than willing to help. Trying to be a team player.
Yeah, I guess in closing, I'd just like to see Idaho code followed, not follow a loophole.
Alrighty.
I
Thank
get
you
that.
for listening to us.
yeah.